Have you ever noticed a strange tingling in your feet that just won't go away? Or maybe you felt like your legs are falling asleep more often, even when you haven't been sitting in a weird position. If you've hit your 60s or are caring for someone who has, those odd sensations might not be something to ignore. Because here's the thing, sometimes our bodies whisper before they scream. And in the case of diabetic neuropathy, those whispers can be the very first warning signs that something serious is brewing underneath the surface. Now don't worry, this isn't a gloom and doom kind of video. In fact, it's the opposite. We're going to talk about how to catch those early signs, understand what they might mean, and most importantly, what you can do about them. Knowledge truly is power, especially when it comes to your health. And I want you to stick around until the end, because the last sign we're going to talk about, it's one most people overlook, but it might just be the most important of all. Before we dive in, though, let me say this clearly. Disclaimer, this video is for informational purposes only. It's based on publicly available research and real-life stories. But everyone's body is different, so always consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your lifestyle, diet, or medication. Science is always evolving, and what works for one person might not work for another. Alright, let's get into it. So diabetic neuropathy, what is it really? In simple terms, it's nerve damage caused by high blood sugar levels. Over time, consistently elevated blood sugar can damage the small blood vessels that supply your nerves, especially in your legs and feet. And once that happens, you might start feeling things that don't seem to make sense. Now here's what's scary and fascinating at the same time. According to the American Diabetes Association, about half of all people with diabetes will develop some form of neuropathy. Half, but many won't even realize it until the damage is already pretty advanced. So let's talk about those early signs, starting with the first one you should never brush off. Number 1, unexplained tingling or numbness in your feet or hands. This is often the very first whisper your nerves are sending you. And the strange part, it can come and go at first. You might feel it in the morning when you get out of bed, or maybe it hits you at night when you're trying to sleep. I had a neighbor, Mary, who brushed off her foot tingling for months. She thought it was just her shoes or maybe her age. But when it didn't go away, she mentioned it to her doctor, and sure enough, her blood sugar levels had been creeping up without her even knowing. That tingling was the first clue. The nerves in your feet and hands are the longest in your body, so they're often the first to feel the effects of poor circulation or nerve damage. The medical term for this is peripheral neuropathy, and it's the most common type linked to diabetes. Here's what's interesting. According to a 2020 study published in Frontiers in Endocrinology, early neuropathy can actually be reversed, or at least significantly slowed down, when caught early and paired with lifestyle changes. That's a powerful reminder that it's never too late to start paying attention. Sign number 2, a burning or stabbing pain that seems to come from nowhere. Now this one catches a lot of people off guard. You're not injured, you haven't bumped into anything, but suddenly there's this sharp, burning pain in your legs or feet. That pain is often your nerves misfiring, sending signals that something's wrong when there's no real injury. And here's the kicker, it can happen even while you're resting. In fact, some people say the pain is worse at night when they're trying to sleep. If you've ever woken up with that fiery sensation in your calves or toes, and you couldn't explain it, this could be your body's way of saying, hey, we need to check on those blood sugar levels. There's solid science behind this too. A publication in the Journal of Diabetes Investigation highlighted how these pain symptoms often precede other signs of neuropathy. That's why noticing them early and acting on them can change everything. I remember chatting with a gentleman named Lewis, 72 years old and full of life, who told me he started experiencing weird burning sensations in his feet during his evening walks. He thought it was just from walking more than usual, but it kept coming back. When he finally saw a doctor, they discovered he had type 2 diabetes, and the nerve damage was just starting. But here's the good news, Lewis didn't stop walking. Instead, he worked with a nutritionist, adjusted his diet, and started a gentle yoga routine. 6 months later, not only had his blood sugar improved, but that burning sensation? Gone. So don't ignore that pain. It's not just age or just tired legs. Sometimes, it's your nervous system waving a red flag. Sign number 3, increased sensitivity to touch. Now this one's a bit strange because it almost sounds like a contradiction to numbness, right? But this is exactly how neuropathy can confuse people. Sometimes, areas that feel numb can suddenly become too sensitive. A light blanket might feel like sandpaper. Socks might start to irritate your skin. I had a cousin who said the seams in his pants felt like they were scratching him, even though they were soft cotton. This odd switch, where touch becomes painful, is called allodynia, and it's another red flag for nerve irritation. If you've noticed changes like this, especially on your feet, hands, or even thighs, it's time to take it seriously. The Cleveland Clinic notes that early signs like these are often missed or misdiagnosed, leading people to believe it's just part of aging or even a dermatological issue. But the root might be in the nerves. So if you're thinking, well, I'm just more sensitive now that I'm older, don't settle for that explanation. It might be something more, and it might be something you can do something about. Alright, so we've talked about tingling, burning pain, and touch sensitivity. Each one of these signs may seem minor in isolation, but together, they can tell a very important story about what's happening inside your body. And if you've noticed even one of these symptoms, here's the encouraging part. It's not too late to act. Studies have shown that lifestyle changes, like improving your diet, walking regularly, and reducing stress, can not only prevent further damage, but sometimes even help reverse it. In fact, according to research published in Diabetes Care, people with early-stage neuropathy who maintained better blood sugar control over just 6 months reported significantly less nerve pain. That's a short time for such a big change. So now that we've covered these early signs, let's talk about something just as important: how tiny daily changes can help protect your nerves and maybe even restore the ones that are just starting to feel the strain. Because in part 2, we're going to dig into how simple habits, things you can start doing today, can make a powerful difference in how your nerves function and how you feel every single day. Now that we've looked at some of the early warning signs, let's shift gears a bit and talk about what you can actually do about it. Because feeling those symptoms like tingling, burning, or sensitivity isn't the end of the road. In many cases, it's just the beginning of a wake-up call. And the best part, your body is always ready to respond when you start treating it with a little more care. So let's talk about daily habits that can help protect your nerves and even reduce the progression of diabetic neuropathy. And no, we're not talking about huge, overwhelming changes here. We're talking about small, consistent steps that you can start right now. And I know what you might be thinking. I'm already in my 60s. Isn't it a little late to make a difference? But the science says otherwise. A study from the Diabetes Prevention Program followed thousands of older adults and found that even modest lifestyle changes, like losing just 5 to 7% of body weight and walking 30 minutes a day, could cut the risk of developing diabetes by more than half. That's huge. Let's start with something simple: movement. Now, I'm not saying you need to start training for a marathon, but here's the truth. Movement is like medicine for your nerves. When you walk, swim, or do gentle stretching, you're improving your circulation. And when your blood is flowing better, your nerves get the oxygen and nutrients they need to stay healthy. I knew a woman named Teresa who was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at 67. At the time, she could barely make it up a flight of stairs without needing to rest. But she started doing chair exercises, just 10 minutes a day at first. Over time, she built up to walking around her block twice a day. Now, at 72, she tells me her energy is better than it was in her 50s. I didn't think I could do it, she said, but I just took it one day at a time. Here's the kicker. A study from neurology found that consistent aerobic activity, like walking, dancing, or swimming, was associated with reduced symptoms of peripheral neuropathy, even in older adults. It doesn't have to be intense, it just has to be consistent. You don't need a gym. You just need a little bit of motivation and a good pair of shoes. Now let's talk about another major player here: blood sugar control. Because here's the deal. High blood sugar is like rust for your nerves. It wears them down slowly, almost silently, until one day they start misfiring. But when you keep your blood sugar in check, you give those nerves a fighting chance. The National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases published data showing that people who maintained tighter glucose control had 60% fewer neuropathy complications than those who didn't. That's a massive difference. Now, I know managing blood sugar can feel like a full-time job. Between checking levels, taking meds, watching what you eat, it's a lot. But it starts with one simple mindset shift. Food isn't the enemy, it's your fuel. You don't have to give up everything you love. But being mindful of carbs, cutting back on added sugars, and choosing whole, unprocessed foods can make a world of difference. Think more colorful veggies, lean proteins, and fiber-rich foods. I remember visiting a retired teacher named Frank. He said his doctor gave him a long list of foods he wasn't allowed to eat. He felt so overwhelmed that he almost gave up. But then, he started with one simple rule: swap soda for water. That alone helped lower his fasting blood sugar by 20 points in 3 weeks. From there, he added one veggie to every meal. Small steps, big results. And speaking of food, here's something else many people don't think about. Vitamin deficiencies, especially B vitamins, can make nerve problems worse. In particular, vitamin B12 plays a big role in nerve health. And the tricky part? As we get older, our bodies aren't as good at absorbing it. According to Harvard Health, up to 20% of people over 60 may have low B12 levels without even knowing it. And symptoms like numbness, fatigue, or memory issues, they're often blamed on aging, when in fact they might be due to a simple deficiency. So if you're experiencing nerve symptoms, ask your doctor to check your B12. You might need a supplement, or just a few more servings of foods like eggs, salmon, and fortified cereals. Now let's talk about a really common obstacle: fear of starting. A lot of people feel frozen when they hear the words nerve damage. It sounds permanent, and frankly, kind of terrifying. But here's what I always say: you don't have to fix everything overnight. You just have to start moving in the right direction. Your nerves take time to heal, but they do respond to care. One man I met, Jorge, didn't start addressing his neuropathy symptoms until he was 70. At first, he was scared. He thought the tingling in his feet meant he was headed toward amputation. But his doctor gave him a plan: improve diet, start walking, add a supplement, and keep glucose in range. Within a year, his symptoms had decreased by nearly 40%. And most importantly, he felt in control again. So if you're watching this and you feel stuck, just take that first step. Call your doctor. Go for a walk. Swap one thing on your plate. You don't have to do it all at once. But doing something beats doing nothing every single time. Now that we've covered the big impact of movement, blood sugar, and diet, there's one more piece we can't ignore: inflammation. Inflammation is your body's natural defense system, but when it's constantly triggered by things like poor diet, stress, or lack of sleep, it starts damaging healthy tissue, including your nerves. That's why eating anti-inflammatory foods like berries, leafy greens, nuts, and fatty fish can make a big difference. A 2021 study in Nutrients found that people with diabetic neuropathy who followed an anti-inflammatory diet had significantly lower pain scores and improved nerve function after just 12 weeks. You don't have to go full health guru to get results. Just small swaps, like choosing walnuts instead of chips, or a spinach salad instead of fries, can begin to calm that inflammation. So, we've covered a lot in this part. Everything from how exercise improves nerve health, to managing blood sugar, to the role of nutrition and inflammation. And I hope you're starting to see a pattern here. Your body wants to heal. It just needs the right support. And guess what? You're not doing this alone. Because in the next part, we're going to get into the emotional and mental side of healing. Things like motivation, staying consistent, and overcoming the fatigue or discouragement that so many people feel as they age. Plus, we'll talk about one of the most powerful but underrated ways to protect your health. And it has nothing to do with food or exercise. So stick around, because what comes next might just be the turning point for you or someone you love. If you're enjoying this so far and want more simple, science-backed tips to stay healthy as you age, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We share helpful videos just like this every week. And who knows, the next one might be exactly what you need to hear. Okay, let's keep going. Because now that we've talked about how diabetic neuropathy starts and what you can do physically to protect your nerves, things like movement, blood sugar control, and diet, it's time to dig into something just as important but often overlooked: your mindset. Here's the truth. Managing a chronic condition like diabetes, or any health challenge, really isn't just a physical battle. It's emotional, it's mental, And for many people, especially after 60, it can start to feel like an uphill climb with no summit in sight. But I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not too old, too tired, or too far gone to feel better. Not by a long shot. In fact, I once met a man named Paul at a community center where I was giving a talk. He was 72, retired, and had recently been diagnosed with diabetic neuropathy. His feet were constantly tingling, and some days it felt like walking on hot gravel. When I asked him what he was doing for it, he shrugged and said, "What can I do? I'm old. It's just the way it goes." But something shifted after that day. He didn't jump into a fitness program or overhaul his entire diet. He just started with one thing, doing light leg stretches every morning. Then he added a 10-minute walk in the evenings. Eventually, he started strength training twice a week with light dumbbells. A year later, I ran into him again. He was beaming. "I feel 10 years younger," he said. "The pain's not gone, but it's way less than it used to be. And I don't feel helpless anymore." You see, the body responds to effort, especially when that effort is steady and kind. There's a powerful study from Johns Hopkins University that found just adding 10 extra minutes of daily movement can significantly reduce the risk of complications from type 2 diabetes, including neuropathy. Just 10 minutes. That's less than one commercial break during your favorite show. And let's not forget the power of connection. It's easy to isolate when you're not feeling well. Pain, fatigue, and emotional stress can make you want to pull back from friends, family, even your own goals. But social connection is one of the biggest protective factors for both physical and mental health, especially as we age. In fact, research from Harvard's 75-year study of adult development, one of the longest studies of human life ever conducted, found that strong relationships were the most consistent predictor of longevity and happiness. Not wealth, not IQ, relationships. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, reach out to someone. Talk about how you're feeling. Ask a neighbor to walk with you once a week. Join a local support group, or even an online one. Just don't go it alone. And while we're talking about the emotional side of things, let's address something else that's very real for many people dealing with diabetic neuropathy: pain and fatigue. Yes, neuropathy can cause discomfort. Sometimes it's burning, sometimes it's pins and needles, sometimes it's just this weird, numb sensation that makes walking feel strange. That alone can wear down your motivation, right? But here's something hopeful. There are non-medication strategies that can help. For instance, several clinical trials have shown that mindfulness meditation, deep breathing, and even guided imagery can reduce pain perception and improve coping skills in people with chronic conditions. It might sound too simple to be effective, but I've heard from so many people who've said, "Just 5 minutes of deep breathing before bed helped me sleep better, and that helped everything else feel more manageable." And remember, your nervous system is incredibly adaptive. When you reduce stress, when you sleep better, when you calm the inflammation, your nerves start to get a little relief. And that's when healing can begin. Another underrated tool? Sleep. Poor sleep increases inflammation, raises blood sugar, and worsens pain sensitivity. But good sleep, restorative sleep, helps your body repair itself. The catch is, many people over 60 struggle with sleep. If that's you, try this. Dim the lights an hour before bed. Turn off screens 30 minutes before you sleep. And avoid heavy meals late at night. These simple habits can help reset your natural sleep rhythm and improve the quality of your rest. And finally, I want to talk about hope. Because let's be honest, the world doesn't always talk about aging in the most uplifting way. You see commercials filled with young people jogging up mountains, and meanwhile, you're just trying to get through the grocery store without your feet going numb. But hope is more than a feeling, it's a decision. It's choosing to believe that small changes still matter, that your best years might still be ahead of you, that your story isn't finished just because the calendar says you're over 60. And the science backs you up. Researchers from Yale University found that older adults with a positive attitude about aging lived 7.5 years longer on average than those who viewed aging as decline. That's not woo-woo. That's data. Because now that we've talked about how diabetic neuropathy starts and what you can do physically to protect your nerves, things like movement, blood sugar control, and diet, it's time to dig into something just as important but often overlooked: your mindset. Here's the truth. Managing a chronic condition like diabetes, or any health challenge, really, isn't just a physical battle. It's emotional. It's mental. And for many people, especially after 60, it can start to feel like an uphill climb with no summit in sight. But I want you to hear this loud and clear. You are not too old, too tired, or too far gone to feel better. Not by a long shot. In fact, I once met a man named Paul at a community center where I was giving a talk. He was 72, retired, and had recently been diagnosed with diabetic neuropathy. His feet were constantly tingling, and some days it felt like walking on hot gravel. When I asked him what he was doing for it, he shrugged and said, "What can I do? I'm old. It's just the way it goes." But something shifted after that day. He didn't jump into a fitness program or overhaul his entire diet. He just started with one thing, doing light leg stretches every morning. Then he added a 10-minute walk in the evenings. Eventually, he started strength training twice a week with light dumbbells. A year later, I ran into him again. He was beaming. "I feel 10 years younger," he said. "The pain's not gone, but it's way less than it used to be. And I don't feel helpless anymore." You see, the body responds to effort, especially when that effort is steady and kind. There's a powerful study from Johns Hopkins University that found just adding 10 extra minutes of daily movement can significantly reduce the risk of complications from type 2 diabetes, including neuropathy. Just 10 minutes. That's less than one commercial break during your favorite show. And let's not forget the power of connection. It's easy to isolate when you're not feeling well. Pain, fatigue, and emotional stress can make you want to pull back from friends, family, even your own goals. But social connection is one of the biggest protective factors for both physical and mental health, especially as we age. In fact, research from Harvard's 75-year study of adult development, one of the longest studies of human life ever conducted, found that strong relationships were the most consistent predictor of longevity and happiness. Not wealth, not IQ, relationships. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, reach out to someone. Talk about how you're feeling. Ask a neighbor to walk with you once a week. Join a local support group, or even an online one. Just don't go it alone. And while we're talking about the emotional side of things, let's address something else that's very real for many people dealing with diabetic neuropathy: pain and fatigue. Yes, neuropathy can cause discomfort. Sometimes it's burning, sometimes it's pins and needles, sometimes it's just this weird, numb sensation that makes walking feel strange. That alone can wear down your motivation, right? But here's something hopeful. There are non-medication strategies that can help. For instance, several clinical trials have shown that mindfulness meditation, deep breathing, and even guided imagery can reduce pain perception and improve coping skills in people with chronic conditions. It might sound too simple to be effective, but I've heard from so many people who've said, "Just 5 minutes of deep breathing before bed helped me sleep better," and that helped everything else feel more manageable. And remember, your nervous system is incredibly adaptive. When you reduce stress, when you sleep better, when you calm the inflammation, your nerves start to get a little relief. And that's when healing can begin. Another underrated tool? Sleep. Poor sleep increases inflammation, raises blood sugar, and worsens pain sensitivity. But good sleep, restorative sleep, helps your body repair itself. The catch is, many people over 60 struggle with sleep. If that's you, try this. Dim the lights an hour before bed. Turn off screens 30 minutes before you sleep. And avoid heavy meals late at night. These simple habits can help reset your natural sleep rhythm and improve the quality of your rest. And finally, I want to talk about hope. Because let's be honest, the world doesn't always talk about aging in the most uplifting way. You see commercials filled with young people jogging up mountains, and meanwhile, you're just trying to get through the grocery store without your feet going numb. But hope is more than a feeling, it's a decision. It's choosing to believe that small changes still matter, that your best years might still be ahead of you, that your story isn't finished just because the calendar says you're over 60. And the science backs you up. Researchers from Yale University found that older adults with a positive attitude about aging lived 7.5 years longer on average than those who viewed aging as decline. That's not woo-woo. That's data. So be kind to yourself. Speak to yourself like you would a dear friend. And remind yourself every single day that your body wants to heal. You just have to give it the chance. Now that you have all these tools, from daily habits and blood sugar control to mindset and motivation, let's wrap things up in the next part with a final burst of encouragement and a simple challenge you can start today. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about avoiding pain, it's about living fully with energy and joy, no matter your age. So don't go anywhere. The best part is still ahead. So here we are, the final stretch. And if you've stayed with me through all of this, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Because watching something like this isn't just about learning. It's about believing that your health still matters. That you still matter. Let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've covered. We started with the early signs of diabetic neuropathy. Those subtle but important messages your body might be sending. The tingling, the numbness, the unexplained pain. The little changes in balance or coordination. Even the emotional toll that can quietly creep in. We talked about why these symptoms are more than just getting older, and how they're actually red flags your nervous system is waving, asking for your attention, not your fear. Then we explored how daily habits, simple ones, can shift the course of your health. We looked at movement, blood sugar control, the role of anti-inflammatory foods, and the power of staying socially and emotionally engaged. We talked about people just like you, Teresa, Frank, Jorge, Paul, who didn't let their age or diagnosis define them. They took one small step at a time and created real, powerful change in their lives. And if they can do it, you can too. Because aging doesn't mean losing your health. It means taking charge of it in a smarter, more intentional way. You've earned the wisdom. Now it's about giving your body the support it needs to keep up. I know, it's not always easy. Some days your body hurts. Some days you're tired. Some days the scale doesn't move, or your glucose numbers are stubborn. And you wonder if any of it is even worth the effort. But I promise you, every little choice adds up. Every walk, every healthy meal, every time you decide to care for yourself instead of giving up, that's a win. And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. One of my favorite pieces of advice comes from Dr. Michael Greger, a well-known physician and researcher who focuses on lifestyle medicine. He often says, genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. In other words, your future isn't carved in stone. It's written day by day, decision by decision. And here's the beautiful thing, your body wants to heal. Your nerves, even when damaged, can still regenerate under the right conditions. Studies have shown that when people reduce inflammation, manage their blood sugar, and stay active, their symptoms of diabetic neuropathy can not only improve, they can even reverse in some cases. That's not just science. That's hope backed by data. Now, if you're wondering, where do I even start? I've got a simple challenge for you. Just choose one thing from what you've learned in this video. Not 5, not 10, just one. Maybe it's swapping soda for water. Maybe it's taking a 10-minute walk after dinner. Maybe it's finally calling your doctor and asking to check your B12 levels. Or maybe it's writing down a few things you're grateful for to start shifting your mindset. Whatever it is, do it today. And then tomorrow, do it again. Because you don't climb a mountain in one leap. You do it one step at a time. And while we're wrapping up, I'd love to hear from you. What part of this video spoke to you the most? Was there something that made you think, hey, I could try that? Or maybe you have your own story to share, something that helped you manage neuropathy or take control of your health. We'd really love to hear from you in the comments. Your story could inspire someone else who's right at the edge of giving up. You never know the ripple effect you might create. And if you found this video helpful, if it gave you a little clarity, a little comfort, or even a spark of motivation, please give it a thumbs up. That helps us reach more people who might be looking for exactly this kind of support. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We post new videos every week with practical, science-backed tips to help you stay healthy, strong, and hopeful as you age. Because at the end of the day, this journey is about more than just preventing symptoms. It's about living fully, laughing more, moving with confidence, feeling connected, feeling alive. Your health is in your hands. And with just a few small changes, you can build a future that feels a whole lot brighter, no matter your age. So here's to you, to strength, to resilience, and to believing that your best days might still be ahead. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. We'd really love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions for future topics or questions you want answered, write to us in the comments below. We're here to help, and your input could inspire our next video. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on more practical tips for healthy aging. Here's to living your best life at any age.